Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about file handling. So let's get started by first of all looking at the example file that we want to read. So here is the myfile.txt and in which we have written hello world. So to start with, we are going to open a file and then read it. So let's say over here I'm gonna say my file variable equals open, and in that you just have to supply the file path. So over here it's in the same directory, so I will simply supply the file name over here. Now the second parameter, what is the mode? In the pop-up you can see there are so many options, but out of which, let's say we just want to read the file for now, and that's why we are going to supply. Now that we have opened the file, how do we read the file? So for that there is a function which is available on the file variable that we have just declared, which is this. My bad, read is the function with which you'd be able to read it, and whenever you're done, make sure that you close the file. So with this we have closed the file. So line number 1 we open the file, line number 2 we read the file, and whatever value we get we are printing it, and then on line number 3 we are closing the file. Now let's try running this. So right click and then run Python file in terminal. When I do that, you can see the output. Let's try changing the value over here in the file. So we've added one more line. Now let's try rerunning this. So now if I run it again, you can see that the output is different. So this is how you can open a file, read the file, and close the file. By default, if you use R and then T, it means it's going to read the file as a text file. But if you supply RB, it's going to read the file as binary. So like I stated earlier, if you don't supply anything, it's going to treat the file as the text file. So in this example, we understood that how to open a file, and at the end, like line number 3, we have to make sure that we always close it. So let's say if you want to avoid closing the file, there's a different syntax which goes something like this: with and then open the file, which is in our case myfile.txt, and then over here we are going to supply as a read mode as file. So with this we have declared a file variable, and then you can see the indent now. So basically everything that we provide within the scope of this section, it's going to have the scope of the file, and as soon as you are out of the scope, it's no longer available. So now I'm going to print file.read, and one more line which I'm going to add: file is closed without close function, because we kept the file within the with section. So we kept the file within the scope, and that's why the moment we are out of the scope, the file is going to be closed automatically. Right click, run, and we can see the output twice over here, and after that we can also see that the statement that we can see over here, file was closed. So in these two examples, you saw that we were able to read everything from the file. But let's say if you want to read certain number of bytes. So each character represents single byte when we are reading a text file. So let's say if I want to read first 5 words. So instead of saying read, like which would read the entire file, I'm going to say 6 bytes. Now let's try running this. So you can see that it actually printed hello and space. Let's read 8 bytes so that you get even more idea. Hello and then space and then WO. So it's basically reading 8 bytes from the given file. Now the other thing that I want to highlight is how do we read line by line. So for that we can use read lines. So for now I'm gonna copy this and put it over here. So this is one example. In here I'm going to add the comment read whole file. So this is read whole file example, and then this is read first 8 bytes of file, and here in this example we are going to read lines. So read file lines. Now if I say in this one read lines, over here in the output we only see one line. because we said read line. So if I add one more statement, it's going to read another line. Right click, run, and now you can see extra lines over here. I go back to this one and I'm going to say third line, and going back over here and adding one more statement and running the Python file, and you can see 3 different statements over here. So this is how you read line by line when you are basically reading from a file. Now that we have covered how to read a file, let's talk about adding something to file or writing something to existing file. So I'm going to copy this, put it over here, add one more section in comment, and say append one line to existing file. So we already have my file.txt. So in this example, I'm going to say A means append mode. Now I can say file.write. So with the append mode, whatever content we have, it's going to add content on top of it. So we're going to write, let's say this is 4th line. So if I try reading the whole file after this, it would read the 4th line as well. Right click, run, and you can see that the 4th line was added. And if I go to the file, you can see the 4th line was added. Of course, it didn't add the /n character because we missed adding it. So let me try deleting that from here first, and then now if I run with /n character in the beginning and then T capital. Now if I rerun this, you can see the 4th line was added along with the /n character, and 4th line goes to the 4th line. So this is how you append. Now if I keep running this over and over, then it would keep adding this is the 4th line over and over. So let's say if I'm running this 2 times, then it is adding the 4th line 2 more times. So this is how you append the content to existing file. Let's talk about the write mode. When you are opening the file with the write mode, it's going to overwrite everything. So make sure that you have the backup of the file, which is important if in case it is important. So I'm going to open the file as a write mode. Now I'm putting the statement, I'm going to rewrite everything. Let's try running this and then reading the file right after that. So if I run the file, Python file, which is files, you can see that in the console output that it was printing up to, I guess, 4 lines of the 4th line, but after that it only says 1 line, and which says I'm going to rewrite everything. And if I open the file, you can see there is just 1 line, and which was due to the write mode. So whenever you are opening file with the write mode, make sure that you have appropriate data and you write it accordingly. Now that we know how to open a file, how to append the content to the file, and how to write the content to a file, let's talk about how do we delete a file. In order to delete the file, we have to import OS. Once we have the OS instance or OS package available, we have a method called remove, and in that we just have to supply the file name. So I will supply my file.txt, and with that we'll be able to delete the file. So if I run this, right now we do have a file over here in the directory, but whenever the program is done doing everything, it's going to remove the file. Let's try running this, and you can see that file was removed. So this is how you can remove a file. But after this, what if I try to read the file again, or what if I try to open the file again? File doesn't exist over here. So if I try to run this, it's going to throw an error over here. Now, how do we handle this situation? So that's what we are going to talk about. Okay, so now we are going to talk about what if file doesn't exist at all. And let's say if there is no file, there is no point of running any of this. So for that, we would need system as well. And after that, we're going to check if os.path.exist. In that, we will supply the name of the file, my file.txt, double equals false. So in this case, I will print file not found named my file.txt, and after that we can simply say okay, system.exit. So with this, we are returning early because there is no point of running the code over here because file is not there, so none of the code would work. So let's try running this. So now I'm trying to run the file in terminal. When I click on it, you can say that it says file not found. But if I have the file with the name my file.txt and add something in it, it's just gonna work fine. And at the end, of course, because we have the remove statement over there, with that it's going to remove the file after the program is done. So it was able to read the file and then it removed everything. So I hope that with that you have learned a lot. A quick summary: number one, how to open the file, and then how to read the file content. Number two, how to use the with scope and immediately close the file without explicitly saying to close the file. How to read specific bytes, how to read line by line, and how to append data to file, how to open the file in the write mode, and how to remove the file, and how to check if the file exists or not. And let's say if file doesn't exist, so how do we early return? So these are the things that we have covered today. I hope that it was a helpful session, and see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.